Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we are going over the full timeline for FNAF back in the 80s, made by Goldie Entertainment, also known as Golden Freddy Cinema. You thought I was going to say FNAF itself there for a second, didn't you? Don't worry, that's coming in due time. But considering that's not going to be ready for a while, I thought it would be more fun to do this video instead. So, let's stop the chit chat and begin piecing together this timeline. In all honesty, when figuring out what order the games go in, Goldie has actually done practically all of the legwork for us. The franchise kicks off with Killer in Purple, before going to Killer in Purple 2. After that, there's a huge time skip to the year 2020, which is when Back in the 80s takes place. We then wait a couple of hours before going into The Living Nightmare, which ultimately leads into FNAF, Park of Horror, and the ending of the series. So in all fairness, this video is less of a timeline and more of a lore overview, but it's still worth it nonetheless. Let's start off with the original Killer in Purple game. The basic premise of the game is more or less the same as its well-known sequel, Kill Kids. We know from the game job description, and also this loading sequence, that Killer in Purple takes in a virtual world made by the real William Afton. The description of Killer in Purple 2 tells us that the data collected from this virtual world is collected and stored in a hard drive to be made into Afton's science fair project, Project Malheur. If you know a thing or two about regular old FNAF, then you'd know that Malheur equals Glitchtrap. So in short, Afton is using his data to make Glitchtrap. Oh, and also keep that hard drive thing in mind because it'll be important later. So far so good, right? Afton makes virtual land, data from said virtual land turns into Glitchtrap. Simple enough. After Afton saves Glitchtrap's data, he goes to the surface again and opens his pizzeria as a guise to, well, kill more kids. This guy really just can't take a break, can he? The bodies get transported to Afton Robotics, where they get turned into pizza so he can, I kid you not, feed their bodies to the parents. Somebody get this man a hobby. Anyway, moving on, there's also this locked door in the Afton house that has a keep out notice on it, from Michael. Speaking of Michael, he's usually just sitting there watching TV and losing his eyesight slowly but surely, in case you were wondering. When you unlock and open this door, you find a cot with the name Jim above it. I guess that probably means nothing. Anyway, eventually William notices that Henry's onto him, which is obviously something he can't risk, so he lures him to the top of the lighthouse where he pushes him off in this really cool Mufasa-like death sequence. R.I.P. Henry. However, Afton soon realizes that Henry survived, so he begins working on a contingency plan. Sooner or later, Henry and the ghosts of the kids confront Afton, who then runs into the spring bunny suit and gets spring locked. But unlike in FNAF, Afton does this intentionally. And because of the spring lock scene, we know that Killer in Purple 2 takes place in the year 1993. And because Killer in Purple 1 takes place literally just before Killer in Purple 2, we can also assume that it takes place either in early 1993 or late 1992. After the spring lock scene, there's a time skip to the year 2020 on January 20th. Jim, a police officer who has been investigating the MCI, gets a call from his friend Mark to meet him at the old Freddy's location. That's strange. Another Jim. Probably just coincidence, right? Anyway, after a very specific ETA of 9 minutes, Jim arrives, restores the power, and quite literally survives 5 nights at Freddy's. At the end of it, he finds a computer that has a folder with the name Mark, before coming face to face with Glitchtrap, who tells Jim that he's in a game called Back in the 80s. Glitchtrap then explains that Mark was missing from the game files from the beginning due to him being in a PC, and when Jim objects, referring to the conversation in the car, the truth is revealed that it was just an audio file. Glitchtrap took Mark's place in the game in an attempt to get back to the real world. As Glitchtrap begins to possess the player, Mark's voice comes in and tells Jim to delete Glitchtrap with his delete button. Jim does so, and it all works out in the end. This ending for Back in the 80s is also a bit confusing, for one main reason. Glitchtrap tells Jim that they're in a game called Back in the 80s, which on its own is completely fine, but when you pair it alongside the fact that there are other games in the story, and that Goldie has stated that Jim was real, things gonna begin falling apart. Could Glitchtrap simply be lying? Possibly. In fact, this was my first thought too, but when I asked Goldie about the possibility, he told me that Glitchtrap was telling the truth. So, what exactly does this mean? In short, we don't know. And this is one of the reasons that Killer in Purple 2 is getting a story update, releasing no time in the near future. But because we have genuinely no clue what to think of this, we will go along that the idea that these back in the 80s games are in-game games that are a retelling of real events by the in-game developer. Does that make sense? Probably not, so let me simplify a bit more. We have our world, the real physical world that you, I, and 8 billion other people live in. Now, we have Jim, Mark, and all these FNAF characters. These characters occupy the digital world. The events of Killer in Purple 2, back in the 80s, The Living Nightmare, and Park of Horror all happen in this digital universe. After their story finishes, the Goldie of that world makes games based on these events, basically making a whole other digital world, which is why Glitchtrap says that it's all part of the game. I hope this explanation breaks it down a bit more for you to understand, but considering that the story update is coming in 2026, this will more or less make a lot more sense sooner or later. I tried to get some answers from Goldie whilst writing the script from this video, but due to my adamancy to keep this project a secret until the teasers went out, I couldn't really explain why I wanted this knowledge, so you guys are just gonna have to stick with my crappy ideas. And guess what? It didn't really make a difference either way because Goldie figured it out. Mark and Jim then go to Mark's uncle's house, Cawthon Manor. And yes, this does make Mark the nephew of Scott Cawthon. However, the animatronics have followed them home, and they must fend them off until 6 AM. After successfully doing so, they find Glitchtrap literally hiding in their walls. Jim goes to confront Glitchtrap, and tells him that they have a hard drive that can lock him away. After Glitchtrap taunts him further, saying that they need to be behind him in order to do anything, Glitchtrap realizes his grave mistake, and Mark activates the hard drive, locking Glitchtrap away. Jim goes home to see his son, Brendan, who says that he had only left an hour ago. Jim explains that that wasn't him, before asking where Brendan's mother, Vanessa, is. And that's the end of The Living Nightmare. We know that it takes place a couple of hours after the end of Back in the 80s thanks to this description, so we can say that it takes place in the early hours of January 27th, 2020, assuming I've done the math correctly. As for Glitchtrap, we know that he's been trapped inside of the hard drive now, but what exactly is he doing? Well, The Living Nightmare has an extra section of gameplay in which you are able to play as none other than Glitchtrap himself. So this, along with what Glitchtrap says in the ending of Park of Horror, more on that later, we can say that Glitchtrap was stuck in a digital version of Cawthon Manor and was forced to play The Living Nightmare. Think of it as Glitchtrap's own ultimate custom night. Additionally, Cawthon Manor in The Living Nightmare is the same Cawthon Manor you can roam around in Killer in Purple 2. And, just as a little Faz fact, the model of Cawthon Manor was actually based on Phantom Manor. Yes, the Disneyland attraction. Almost a year later, on January 20th, 2021, we finally reach the events of Park of Horror. The game takes place from the eyes of Brendan, Jim's son. Jim and Mark decided to take Brendan to the theme park, Freddy's Funland, to spend some time together. Sadly for Brendan though, he goes to the bathroom and soon realizes that he's been left alone, locked in the park. Honestly, if only the kid had held it in for a while. Anyway, to escape the theme park, Brendan needs to go around and collect keys from different attractions. But unbeknownst to him, the animatronics slowly start activating one by one, and is being watched by none other than Vanny. Towards the end, it's revealed that Vanny is actually Vanessa, the wife of Jim and the mother of Brendan. She's been working under Glitchtrap's influence, trying to bring him back, and now that she has the hard drive, she can do exactly that. Without a second thought, she starts the process, and Glitchtrap starts to retain his physical form in this absolutely massive tube thingy. I mean, just look at the size of that thing. It's got to be as tall as a skyscraper. Anyway, Glitchtrap shrinks down to normal size and begins his monologue, as all good villains do. Remember when I mentioned Glitchtrap being forced to play The Living Nightmare? This is what I meant.
Being trapped in that house for almost a year trying to beat it was not a fun experience.
Brendan calls out to him, shouting that he won't get away with it, that his dad, Jim Afton, will stop him. Pause. What? Jim has been in Afton all along? Yep, that's right. Remember that room you can open in Killer in Purple 2? That is Jim's room, and Jim is the son of Michael, and hence the grandson of William. This obviously leaves Glitchtrap in pure horror, and rightfully so. Considering Glitchtrap is technically the mimic, he believes he's William, so I'm sure his murderous little heart melted when he realized that he's not only a grandfather, but also a great-grandfather, right? Nope. Instead, he's asking himself, Michael, what the absolute frick did you do? Although I should note that Goldie has said that Glitchtrap is nothing like the Mimic and just believes that he's William. Jim and Mark then show up, and Jim explains that Michael knew Henry would come for him eventually, so he turned to the next best solution. Another Afton. Anyway, after this, Glitchtrap hops into a little force field and you start to play as Jim, who has to shoot Vanny until she dies. Glitchtrap's hard drive gets destroyed, Glitchtrap dies, Vanny stabs Jim before she dies, Jim dies, Vanny dies, and everything comes full circle. There's also another funeral scene for Jim, but apart from that, that is the full Goldie game lore in all its glory. A couple of things I should mention before ending the video, however. This lore is not 100% accurate to whatever is going on inside of Goldie's head. After all, this series was made before Glitchtrap turned out to be the Mimic in actual FNAF, so in reality, some of this is newer than the last update some of these games received. Again, Killer and Purple 1 and 2 is getting a full story update, and a bunch of other things are being added too, sometime in the distant future, which we now know is 2026. So, if you want to see me do another of these kinds of videos once the story is cleared up a bit more, let me know down in the comments. I'll also leave Goldie's YouTube channel, Discord server link, website, and GameJolt profile in the description, so you can check out all of his awesome work for yourself. Additionally, Goldie now has a wiki that I helped to create, so that's also going in the description too. Be sure to check that out because we spent a lot of time on it. But that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you everyone for watching, make sure to like and subscribe, join the Discord, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.